JFK, catch a taxi cab from someone, an ISIS member driving them, which looks like most of them seem to be from that persuasion around here, and then hide out in the city until they get activated, whatever sleeper cell they join up in. So, you should be worried. And we shouldn't be letting in Muslims at all. I mean, listen, Donald Trump got ridiculed a few weeks ago about this very topic. But until we figure out what the hell is going on, we should stop Muslim immigration from any country that has a Muslim problem, including several European countries at this point.
I mean, you can talk about France, you can talk about Belgium, you can talk about Germany. A lot of these places that are just letting in refugees virtually unchecked and then allowing to disseminate throughout their population. And, the one thing we haven't touched on, Russ, is these, what Andre was talking about, these enclaves, I guess you would call them, within different cities that are basically run by themselves without government intervention because government's too scared to go there. And we're talking about these neighborhoods that basically police themselves. I liken it to the gangs of New York back in the day. The Italians would take care of the Italians. The Irish would take care of the Irish. And now the Arabs are taking care of the Arabs. It may not be so much a religious thing. That might be the cover. This might be more of a heritage thing than we really think about here, Russ.
Listen, you can liken it to whatever you want to liken it to. But I don't... let's leave gangs in New York out of this. I liken it to this. When the Italians during World War II got out of line, the Italians got spanked by the Americans.
And then they switched sides.
When the Japanese got out of line during World War II, the Japanese got spanked by the Americans.
And now they make great cars.
When the Germans went totally buck wild during World War II, the Germans got spanked by the Americans.
And then we built a wall.
We did. As a matter of fact. Actually, we didn't build that wall.
Germany, and somebody else paid for it. There you go. So Donald Trump isn't so far off then, is he?
Here's a pop quiz for you, Mr. Bertelli.
Uh-oh, I didn't study.
What did Belgium do today in response to the attacks? What did they do with their borders?
I believe they closed their borders.
Why, though? Why is that important to do during a catastrophe like this?
I guess you don't want to let people who committed a crime of terror escape your country.
That's crazy. Just like in the Middle East, like Turkey and Egypt and Syria and all these places want to close off their borders during all this turmoil. Why? I thought open borders were good. I thought building walls was bad.
Well, I guess it's a world gone topsy-turvy now because there are leaders in Brussels right now saying that Donald Trump is right. I don't know if you saw this today,
Guess what?
Russ.
There's a lot of leaders in this country that are starting to say Donald Trump is right.
It's starting to feel like...
Do we still have that little clip you made of Donald Trump and Barack Obama about the Paris attacks, I believe it was? If we have it...
I mean, like from back
in similar to what's going on
from back during the Paris attacks.
Yes.
Yeah, I have that. What do you know? I have it right here. Let's take a listen.
These are the same folks oftentimes who suggest that they're so tough that just talking to Putin or staring down ISIL or using some additional rhetoric somehow is going to solve the problems out there. But apparently they're scared of widows and orphans coming into the United States of America as part of our tradition of compassion. First they were worried about the press being too tough on them during debates. Now they're worried about 3-year-old orphans. That doesn't sound very tough to me. They've been playing on fear in order to try to score political points or to advance their campaigns. And it's irresponsible. And it's contrary to who we are. And it needs to stop because the world is watching.
Right now, we know of no specific and credible intelligence indicating a plot on the homeland.
Now, with the southern border, everybody comes in. Mm-hmm. You just walk by. So we're taking hundreds of thousands of people, some good people, and some rapists, and some killers, and drug lords, and everyone else. And they're flowing through the southern border. Mm. And I would build a wall like nobody can build a wall. And nobody comes in illegally anymore.
And the last question is, you scratch your head about this fence. Everybody talks, build the fence, nothing getting done.
Well, nobody can build a fence like me, David. You know that. I built great buildings all over the world. there's nobody can build a fence, and I would have Mexico pay for it, believe me. They will pay for it because they have really ripped this country off. They have really taken advantage of us, both economically and at the border. They will pay for that fence.
ISIS is making a tremendous amount of money because they have certain oil camps, right? They have certain areas of oil that they took away. They have some in Syria, some in Iraq. I would bomb the shit out of them. I would just bomb those suckers. And that's right. I'd blow up the pipes. I'd blow up the I'd blow up every single inch. There would be nothing left. And you know what? You'll get Exxon to come in there in 2 months. You ever see these guys, how good they are, the great oil companies? They'll rebuild that sucker brand new. It'll be beautiful. And I'd ring it, and I'd take the oil.
They're using them as shields. But we're fighting a very politically correct war.
Yeah. Well, we see that
and the
happening
other thing is with the terrorists, you have to take out their families. When you get these terrorists, you have to take out their families. They care about their lives. Don't kid yourself. But they say they don't care about their lives. You have to take out their families.
Donald J. Trump is calling for a total and complete shutdown of Muslims entering the United States until our country's representatives can figure out what the hell is going on. We have no choice. We have no choice.
In closing, I want to salute the people of Paris for showing the world how to stay strong in the face of terrorism. Even as they grieve, Parisians have begun returning to their cafes, riding the metro, going to stadiums to cheer for their teams. Crowds gathered in the Place de la République, including a mother who brought her children. She said, to let them see that we should not be afraid. As one Parisian said, Paris will always be Paris. And next week, I will be joining President Hollande and world leaders in Paris for the Global Climate Conference. What a powerful rebuke to the terrorists it will be when the world stands as one and shows that we will not be deterred from building a better future for our children.
Now, obviously, this is a country that is based on free speech, but when it edges towards violence, when we see the potential for someone lifting that mantle of anti-Muslim rhetoric, or, as we saw after 9/11, violence directed at individuals who may not even be Muslims but may be perceived to be Muslims. And they will suffer just as well, just as much. When we see that, we will take action. That I think we have, yes, we have charged 225 defendants with hate crimes offenses over the last 6 years, most of those in the last 3 years. Since 9/11, we've had over 1,000 investigations into acts of anti-Muslim hatred, including rhetoric and bigoted actions, with over 45 prosecutions arising out of that. I think, sadly, that number is going to continue.
And there you have it. But that was then. What did Donald Trump say today, Russ, that is making news across the nation? Take a listen to this one, folks.
This morning they asked me a question. Would you approve waterboarding? Would I approve waterboarding? Would I approve waterboarding? And I said, well, let me ask you a question. On the other side, they chop off our young people's heads. And they put them on a stick. On the other side, they build these iron cages and they'll put 20 people in them and they drop them in the ocean for 15 minutes and pull them up 15 minutes later. Would I approve waterboarding? You bet your ass I would. You bet your ass. In a heartbeat. In a heartbeat. And I would approve more than that. And don't kid yourself, folks. It works, okay? It works. Only a stupid person would say it doesn't work. It works. They're all saying, oh, it has no effect. It has. I know people that are very, very important people, and they want to be politically correct. And I see some people talking on television about, well, I don't know if it works. And they tell me later on, it works. It works. Believe me, it works. And you know what? If it doesn't work, they deserve it anyway for what they're doing to us. But it works. It works.
But they deserve it anyway, Russ.
Gene, this man is going to be president. I've been saying it for months now.
Are you finally ready to go on record?
I'm not ready to go on record yet, but I'm really ready to go on record that he's going to win. He's going to be the president. I'm telling you this. There's not a single person in America today that is watching what is happening in Belgium and not at least slightly concerned that it's not going to wind up happening here. And those very same people deep down in places they don't want to talk about agree with Donald J. Trump. That waterboarding is just fine. And you know what? Worse than waterboarding is just fine too.
Well, we got some comments in the chat room. By the way, we got a live chat going on here when we broadcast live Tuesdays at 10 p.m. on Spreaker. And you know what? People in the chat room going nuts over some of the comments. Andre Walker joining us in the chat room. He's not only taking over the show on air, he's in the chat right now hanging out with our people. He's saying, hey, do you remember who opposed the wars in Afghanistan and Iraq back in the day?
And this is interesting.
France and Belgium.
France and Belgium.
Talk about comeuppance, Russ. I mean, this is what happens when you allow these elements to fester in your lands.
But by opposing the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan, shouldn't the Muslims love them? Shouldn't they love us now that Barack Obama has pulled us out of Iraq and Afghanistan? By the way, no boots on the ground in Iraq, right? A Marine just died the other day. How does that happen with no boots on the ground?
Well, yeah, and obviously we want to send our best wishes to their family and not use them as a political pawn here. But, yeah, I mean, it's the truth.
I take offense at that. I'm not using this as a political
I'm not saying
I'm
you are.
a serious question.
I'm not saying you are.
If there are no boots in the ground in Iraq, how does a Marine die in Iraq? Someone explain this to me.
It's a valid question. I guess when...
So just
boots
how
on the
many
ground
boots
does not
are
mean
there on the ground?
Boots on the ground does not necessarily mean boots on the ground sometimes, I guess, Russ.
Well,
especially with this president.
How many boots are on the ground? Can we ever find out now? Can I know?
Especially with this president, there's certain things you can't find out because he's at the ball game, Russ. He's not where he should be. I got to play... I know you put up a lot of clips for us right now. We're going to get to some others now, but here's one I contributed. And you know what? The president right now, 6 hours after the bombing, he was at a ball game with a dictator from a communist country, where he should have been somewhere else defending our allies.
Just to get relevant to what's going on right now, it's outrageous that the president of the United States is not in the Situation Room right now planning to destroy ISIS.
What do you think of the argument it's better that he not? I talked to a Romney supporter who was saying, you know, if he came rushing back, he would look frantic. And he's going about his business like he tells people to go about his business. Yeah.
Well, maybe that's why he's a Romney supporter. That would be like Franklin Roosevelt remaining at Warm Springs when the Japanese bombed Pearl Harbor.
But that was an attack on us. You know what I'm saying?
This is an attack on one of our allies. We belong to NATO. An attack on a NATO ally.
What would you do?
An attack on a NATO ally, in case the president ever read the treaty, is an attack on the United States of America. He has an obligation to defend that country. It's just like an attack on us. I don't know if he's ever read the treaty. The president's knowledge of history is quite questionable in any number of respects.
He has always separated these two. I understand that, but he is always...
He's sitting with a dictator.
Watching a baseball game.
He's sitting with a dictator watching a baseball game while innocent people are being killed in a war.
He doesn't equate it that way. You know what? I mean, he said this before that.
Well, then he should give the job to somebody else.
All right, but you don't obviously agree with that. But if you were there now and looking at what you have to do, what do you do?
Well, so far his strategy hasn't been working, right? Bush took 9/11 really seriously. He hit him back like hell, right? And we didn't get a terrorist incident from then on. He's been in office now for 8 years, and we've had 4, 5, 6, 7. I mean, obviously, he's not scaring them. They don't. There's no worry about Barack Obama doing anything.
He would point out that outside of Boston, it's Europeans, it's the foreigner who they've been getting.
But what about San Bernardino?
Yeah.
outside of San Bernardino. We're going to forget the people in San Bernardino.
I guess what he said.
We're going to forget Fort Hood. We're going to forget the...
so if his response is to get in front of this, how do you get in front of it?
And we don't protect our allies any longer? An attack on France is not an attack on us?